Nicknames and mascots are an essential part of a university's identity. Whether it's a tiger, a bobcat, a tree, or a land shark, nicknames and mascots are a sense of pride for teams, fans, and students.
AMI, fight! Yeah, it's all about the U, baby, all about the U.
So let's look at all the teams in the Power 5 conferences and see how they got their nickname and their mascot.
Totally sports-esque. Major League.
We'll be using the current conference and team Power 5 alignment, and we'll go in alphabetical order throughout this video, so we'll start in the ACC. First up is Boston College. Established in 1863 with its campus located in Chestnut Hill, Massachusetts, they adopted the nickname of the Eagles. This name was adopted in 1920 when Reverend Edward McLaughlin was taken back by a Boston newspaper cartoon that depicted the champion track team as a cat licking a plate clean of their rivals. In response, McLaughlin penned a letter to the student newspaper saying, "It is important that we adopt a mascot to preside at our powwows and triumphant feats. And why not the eagle? Symbolic of majesty, power, and freedom." From then on, they would go by the Boston College Eagles. And starting in 1966, Baldwin the Eagle, which is a pun for the bald eagle's head and their strong urge to win, became their official mascot. The Boston College Eagles would go on to win 6-team NCAA championships in men's hockey and women's lacrosse. Next up is Clemson. Established in 1889 with its campus located in Clemson, South Carolina, they, just like many other schools, adopted the nickname of the Tigers. The nickname came from Walter Riggs, who was a former president of the school and is known as the father of Clemson football. He coached the first ever Clemson football team in 1896, and as he admired the Crimson Tigers, he decided to give Clemson that same name. The trademark paw logo pointing towards 1 o'clock was created by John Antonio in 1970. The first costume mascot for the school appeared in 1954, and they got very creative by naming the mascot the Tiger. The Clemson Tigers would go on to win 7-team NCAA championships in men's golf, soccer, and football. Next is Duke. Established in 1838, but not becoming Duke until 1924 when they moved to Durham, North Carolina, they adopted the nickname of the Blue Devils. The name refers to the nickname given during World War I to the Chasseurs Alpins, the French Alpine Light Infantry Battalion. During the 1922 and 23 seasons, William Lander and Mike Bradshaw referred to the sports teams as the Blue Devils in the school's newspaper. After that name won a contest to find the school's nickname. Through continued use and repetition of the name, along with none of the expected controversy, the Blue Devils nickname caught on. The original mascot in the 1930s was an ode to the nickname given to the French soldiers and evolved to a Batman-style mascot in the 70s, to the famous Blue Devil mascot seen today. The Duke Blue Devils would go on to win 17-team NCAA championships in women's golf and tennis, and men's soccer, lacrosse, and most notably, men's basketball, where their 5 championships would make them popular amongst Yankees, Lakers, and Cowboys fans. Next is Florida State. Established in 1851 and becoming Florida State University in 1947, with their campus located in Tallahassee, Florida, they adopted the nickname of the Seminoles. The name was chosen by students in 1947 in a vote. The name alludes to the Native American people of Florida known as Seminoles, who resisted the efforts of the U.S. government to remove them from the state. Though the university states they officially do not have a mascot, the figures of Osceola, who represents the historical Seminole leader, and his horse Renegade, introduced the football team during home games by riding the midfield with a burning spear and planting it in the turf, first appearing in 1978. Though the nickname and its use is sanctioned by the Seminole tribe of Florida, it has still drawn some controversy, including from the Seminole Nation of Oklahoma, that has 4 times as many members as Florida, stating that the use of American Indian mascots, images, and religious symbols is harmful to all children and is discriminatory to native cultures, imagery, and violates religious icons. Despite controversies, the university and Seminole tribe currently hold on to their relationship, and the Florida State Seminoles have won 13 national championships in women's soccer, softball, and indoor and outdoor track and field, along with men's gymnastics, outdoor track and field, and football. Next is Georgia Tech. Established in 1885 with their location in Atlanta, Georgia, they adopted the nickname of the Yellow Jackets. The nickname was derived from the early 1890s when many fans of the team would wear yellow jackets to the games. The football team lacked gold fabric for their jerseys and wore yellow. They were first referred by the name in 1906 when the Atlanta Journal portrayed a Georgia football player being attacked by a yellow jacket with the caption, "Somebody's about to get stung." The first official mascot of the school was Ramblin' Wreck, a 1930 Ford Model A sports coupe that has led the football team on the field at every home game since 1961. The other mascot is known as Buzz, a yellow jacket that was invented in 1972 and has been restyled over the years, and was even part of a lawsuit against a minor league baseball team in 1998. The Georgia Tech Yellow Jackets would go on to win 5 national championships in women's tennis and football. Next up is Louisville. Established in 1798 and becoming the University of Louisville in 1846, with its campus located in Louisville, Kentucky, they adopted the nickname of the Cardinals. The inspiration for the nickname is the simplest one so far, as the northern cardinal is the state bird of Kentucky, and in 1913 they decided to go with that, later adopting the colors of black and red. The mascot is known as Louis the Cardinal, and the costume that now weighs 50 pounds was first constructed in 1953 by Francis Goldsmith and worn by Townsell Adams. The Louisville Cardinals would go on to win 3 national championships, with all coming in men's basketball. Next is Miami. Established in 1925 with its campus located in Coral Gables, Miami, Florida, they adopted the nickname of the Hurricanes. There is debate on the original origin of the nickname. Some report that the 1927 football team came up with the name in hopes that they would sweep away opponents the same way the Great Miami Hurricane of 1926 did. Other reports say player Porter Norris was asked by reporters in 1926 what the team should be called, and though university officials wanted the team to be named after a local flora, Norris reassured that the players wanted to be known as the Hurricanes, and since then, this has been their nickname. The ibis was chosen as the unofficial mascot in 1926 by Nathan Duncan. This comes from a folklore that the marsh bird known as the ibis is known for its bravery as hurricanes approach. Other birds look at the ibis for leadership, as they are the last to take shelter before a hurricane hits and the first to reappear as the skies clear. In 1950, the first official mascot to appear was a boxer dog named Hurricane that wore an orange and green blanket with his name on it. Then 7 years later, Sebastian the Ibis was created by Norman A. Whitten and was named after San Sebastian Hall. The famous mascot would appear ever since. The Miami Hurricanes would go on to win 9 national championships in women's golf, baseball, and football. Next is North Carolina. Established in 1789 with its campus located in Chapel Hill, North Carolina, they adopted the nickname of the Tar Heels. The name first appeared in the 1880s with little debate on what to call themselves. North Carolina is known as the Tar Heel State, and this comes from the 18th and 19th century when North Carolina was the prominent producer of tar, turpentine, and other materials from the plentiful pine trees in the state. The nickname grew in popularity after Confederate soldiers in North Carolina embraced the name, and it grew in popularity from that point on. North Carolina's official mascot is a ram known as Ramses. The mascot was first conceived after fullback Jack Merritt was given the nickname the Battering Ram in 1922. Vic Huggins, the head cheerleader at the time, suggested a ram mascot to the athletic business manager and had this approved. After receiving $25, Huggins purchased a ram, and it made its first appearance at a pep rally in November of 1924. The ram was later taken to the football field where it gave good luck to the team and became a fixture on the sideline ever since. The costume version of the mascot would first appear in 1987. The North Carolina Tar Heels would go on to win 49 national championships in women's field hockey, tennis, lacrosse, basketball, and soccer, along with men's soccer, lacrosse, and basketball. Next, we're staying in North Carolina for North Carolina State. Established in 1887 and becoming North Carolina State University in 1962, with their campus located in Raleigh, North Carolina, they adopted the nickname of the Wolfpack. Before becoming the Wolfpack, they had names such as the Aggies, the Farmers, and the Techs, named after different institutions. But in 1921, they searched for something better, and that's when an anonymous letter came in from an old graduate. In a letter, he wrote about how teams with traditional symbols and nicknames like the Tar Heels of North Carolina have the best morale and spirit. With this in mind, he wrote, "Here's a snappy, aggressive name which would have a most favorable effect on the college. To have the state team known as the Wolfpack would add tremendously in publicity." Some say the nickname came from a local paper that said the North Carolina State fans were unruly as a pack of wolves. Either way, the Wolfpack name has been with them since. And since 1975, the teams have been represented by the mascots of Mr. and Mrs. Wolf, who were married by the Demon Deacon in 1981. In 2010, a new live mascot was introduced with Tuffy, who is a full-bred Damascus dog. The North Carolina State Wolfpack have won 4 NCAA team championships in women's cross country and men's basketball. Next up is Notre Dame. Established in 1842 with its campus north of South Bend in Notre Dame, Indiana, they adopted the nickname of the Fighting Irish. The exact origin of the Fighting Irish nickname is unknown, though it became the official nickname in 1927. Notre Dame has gone by many nicknames, including the Rovers and the Ramblers, to reflect the football team's willingness to travel. They have also gone by the Golden Blue and the Blue Comets. Several accounts of the origin of the name exist, including Northwestern fans shouting "Kill the Fighting Irish" at a game in 1899. Another account is the Irish Immigrant Union soldiers who fought in the Civil War with the Irish Brigade, and with the third president of Notre Dame, William Corby, having served as chaplain of the Irish Brigade, many attach the name to him. The first documented uses of the name come from various accounts, such as a description of the team, the Detroit Free Press, in 1909 in a game against Michigan. The term was also claimed to motivate the team during halftime and began appearing in newspapers and team journals as early as 1912. No matter the actual origin, Reverend Matthew Walsh, who was the university president in 1927, officially declared the nickname as the Fighting Irish, as he felt it represented all the athletic teams. The Irish Leprechaun was first seen in 1960 as part of the cheering lineup. Before this, Notre Dame had Irish Terrier dogs as their mascot. But after the logo was created by Theodore W. Drake in 1964, 1 year later, the Leprechaun became the official mascot and has been a fixture at games since. The Notre Dame Fighting Irish will go on to win 34 NCAA team national championships in women's soccer, basketball, and tennis, along with men's cross country, golf, fencing, and football. Next is Pittsburgh. Established in 1787 and becoming the University of Pittsburgh in 1908, with its campus located in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, they adopted the nickname of the Panthers. The nickname was decided by a group of alumni and students at a meeting in 1909. They gave 5 reasons for the decision. The first being that the panther was the most powerful animal that used to roam West Pennsylvania. The second being that the panther is a noble animal. The third was that at the time, no other school used the panther as a nickname or a symbol. The panther has colors similar to Golden Blue, and the name of Pittsburgh Panthers has alliteration. Though the costume mascot panther had appeared at Pittsburgh sports events for decades, it didn't receive a name until the 1990s, when the mascot became known as The Rock, named after former player and coach Steve Petro, who had The Rock as a nickname. Over 20 different representations of panthers exist throughout Pitt's campus, including 10 painted fiberglass panthers. The Pittsburgh Panthers will go on to win 11 national championships in football and men's basketball. Next is Syracuse. Established in 1870 with its campus in Syracuse, New York, they adopted the nickname of the Orange. The inspiration for the nickname is a simple one, as it is a reference to the school colors. A report made in 1890 said the inspiration for the color came from the Netherlands, who originally colonized New York, and with the state's historical relationship with the House of Orange and the representation of the color, they went with that. The first official mascot to appear for the school was in 1931, with a Native American warrior known as Saltine Warrior. The name was derived from an article that described an archaeological dig on campus that uncovered artifacts of a Native American warrior. The inspiration for the Saltine came from the abundant salt deposits in Syracuse. The article was revealed to be a hoax, but the mascot remained for 40 years, until 1978, when the mascot was banned as part of a national movement to eliminate Native American motifs. Otto the Orange would make its debut 2 years later and become the official mascot a few years later. The Syracuse Orange would go on to win 17 NCAA team national championships in women's field hockey and men's soccer, lacrosse, cross-country, boxing, basketball, and football. Next is Virginia. Established in 1819 with its campus in Charlottesville, Virginia, they adopted the nickname of the Cavaliers. The name comes from the Royalist supporters in the Royal Colony of Virginia during the English Civil War era that were known as Virginia Cavaliers. The inspiration to adopt this name came from the year 1923, when the school newspaper held a contest to choose a fight song. The winner was the Cavaliers song written by Lawrence Haywood Lee Jr. The song never became tradition at the university, but it did inspire the nickname. Aside from Cavaliers, Virginia teams have also been called the Wahoos and Hoos, mainly by students and fans. There is a legend that the name comes from Washington and Lee baseball fans who called Virginia players Wahoos amidst their rivalry during the 1890s. The name became popular among students in years to come. The first mascot for the school was a mongrel dog named Beta. named after the Beta Theta Pi fraternity. He would appear at many events throughout the school starting in the 1920s. The mascot that appears today first appeared in 1947 when a student dressed as a cavalier rode onto the field on horseback. The Cavalier would reappear in 1963 and made on and off appearances throughout the next few decades before permanently leading the football team out of the tunnel. The Virginia Cavaliers would go on to win 33 NCAA national championships in women's cross country, lacrosse, rowing, and swimming and diving, along with men's tennis, soccer, lacrosse, boxing, basketball, and baseball. We remain in Virginia for our next one with Virginia Tech. Established in 1872 and becoming Virginia Tech in 1970, with its campus located in Blacksburg, Virginia, they adopted the nickname of the Hokies. The name comes from O.M. Stoll, who submitted the old Hokie Spirit Yell in a contest in 1896 to find a new Spirit Yell to mark the changing of the school name. The name was adopted after he won and he received $5. The official mascot of Virginia Tech is the Hokie Bird. That was first seen in 1962, with teams being nicknamed the Fighting Gobblers since the early 1900s, some saying the term came from Coach Branch Bocock, and others say it refers to athletes and soldiers gobbling their meals. A campaign was undertaken in 1981 to design a new mascot, and they went with a turkey design to match the gobbler term. Despite many Virginia Tech athletes winning individual national titles, no Virginia Tech teams have won an NCAA national championship. Our last college in the ACC is Wake Forest. Established in 1834 with its campus located in Winston-Salem, North Carolina, they adopted the nickname of the Demon Deacons. They originally were known as the Old Gold and Black or the Baptists for their association to the Baptist Convention, but in 1923, after an impressive win over Trinity, now known as Duke, a reporter said the Deacons fought like demons, and this gave inspiration for the name. The first appearance of the Demon Deacon mascot came in 1941. Student Jack Baldwin thought the school needed a mascot that looked like a deacon. He wore a tuxedo and top hat and led the football team out to the field. The appearance would become popular and led to the current Demon Deacon mascot seen today. The Wake Forest Demon Deacons would go on to win 10 NCAA team national championships in women's golf and field hockey, along with men's tennis, soccer, golf, and baseball. Now let's move on to the Big Ten. We start with Illinois. Established in 1867 with its campus in Urbana in Champaign, Illinois, they adopted the nickname of the Fighting Illini. Illini, also known as the Illiniwek, or the Illinois Confederation, refers to the 12 to 13 tribes who lived in the Mississippi River Valley. Though the school takes on the same name, they maintain that it does not refer to the Illini tribes. But the first reference to the Illini name appeared in 1874 when the student newspaper was changed to the Illini, and in the start of the 20th century, it was used to refer to students and faculty. The first Illini reference in regards to sports teams was made in 1907, in referencing the football team in the yearbook. The name would continue to appear in the following years, and in 1921, the first appearance of the Fighting Illini in regards to sports teams came to light. Evidence suggests it was used as part of fundraising efforts for a memorial stadium, and in this period, they officially adopted the Fighting Illini name. Starting in 1926, the mascot of Chief Illiniwek began appearing at sporting events, but after decades of controversy and debate over the portrayal, Chief Illiniwek was retired in 2007, and Illinois currently does not have a mascot. The Illinois Fighting Illini would go on to win 23 national championships in men's gymnastics, tennis, outdoor track, fencing, and football. Next is Indiana. Established in 1820 and becoming Indiana University in 1838, with its campus located in Bloomington, Indiana, they adopted the nickname of the Hoosiers. The name refers to a demonym given to the people of Indiana. The origin of the term is up for debate. Many suggest it came from John Finley's 1833 poem entitled The Hoosiers' Nest, and in that same year, it was used in the Indianapolis Journal and the governor published a newspaper titled The Hoosier. Another humorous suggestion is that early Appalachian settlers would shout out "Who's here" when hearing noises from the bushes, and accounts recall the Appalachian settlers in Indiana slurring the words to "Hoosier." No matter the real origin, the name became synonymous with student athletes. Indiana, just like Illinois, doesn't currently have a mascot, though they did have a bulldog named Ox in the early 60s, and later had a bison and a mascot named Hoosier Pride in 1979 that didn't go over well. The Indiana Hoosiers would go on to win 24 NCAA team championships in men's wrestling, cross country, outdoor track and field, soccer, swimming, and basketball. Next is Iowa. Established in 1847 with its campus in Iowa City, Iowa, they adopted the nickname of the Hawkeyes. The nickname comes from the state of Iowa that is known as the Hawkeye State. There is debate on where the nickname came from. Some say it's a tribute to Chief Blackhawk, who was the leader of the Native American Sauk tribe. Others say the nickname comes from the novel The Last of the Mohicans. In the novel, Hawkeye is a character who was a part of the Mohican tribe that was a Native American tribe that once lived in the area that is now Iowa. In 1948, Dick Spencer came up with the drawing for Iowa's symbol, and through a contest, John Franklin gave the mascot the name Herky, as a reference to Hercules. And in 1959, the costume mascot made its debut, evolving to the mascot seen today. The Iowa Hawkeyes would go on to win 27 NCAA team national championships in women's field hockey, men's gymnastics, wrestling, and football. Next is a recent addition to the Big Ten, and that's Maryland. Established in 1856 and becoming the University of Maryland in 1920, with their campus located in College Park, Maryland, they adopted the nickname of the Terrapins. The nickname was adopted in 1932 and came from the then football coach and future president, Harry C. Byrd. The school had the nickname of the Old Liners before that in reference to Maryland being called the Old Line State. But the school paper wanted a new name. Byrd came up with the Terrapins nickname in reference to the Diamondback terrapins native to the Chesapeake Bay region. Maryland's mascot debuted in 1933 as a 300-pound bronze statue and is named Testudo. The mobile version seen today debuted in the 70s. Like many other mascots, the origin of the name is not certain, though it is likely that the name is derived from the scientific classification of a turtle, Testudines. The Maryland Terrapins would go on to win 33 NCAA team championships in women's basketball, field hockey, and lacrosse, along with men's soccer, lacrosse, basketball, and football. Next up is Michigan. Established in 1817 with its campus located in Ann Arbor, Michigan, they adopted the nickname of the Wolverines. The name comes from Michigan being nicknamed the Wolverine State. There is debate on the origin of this nickname. Some say it dates back to the Toledo War between Michigan and Ohio. With the Wolverine being known for its bad temper and hostility, many Ohioans referred to people from Michigan as Wolverines. Another origin story is with the fur trade being a vital industry around the Great Lakes, especially in the time before Michigan became a state. Wolverine pelts from Canada and other states were sold in Michigan and were referred to as Michigan Wolverines. No matter the origin, Michigan adopted the name that would become synonymous with the state and teams. And just like Illinois and Indiana, Michigan does not currently have a live mascot. They did actually have two caged Wolverines from the Detroit Zoo brought to the stadium on game days in 1927, but they could not stop the Wolverines from chewing the bars of the cage. They also had a Wolverine mascot appear in the 80s and 90s, but retired it due to poor reception. The Michigan Wolverines would go on to win 50 NCAA team championships in women's field hockey, gymnastics, and softball, along with men's field hockey, golf, baseball, gymnastics, ice hockey, outdoor track, swimming, basketball, football, and tennis. We remain in Michigan for our next one with Michigan State. Established in 1855 with its campus located in East Lansing, Michigan, they adopted the nickname of the Spartans. The nickname was adopted in the year 1926 as the school was changing from Michigan Agricultural College. They wanted to also change their nickname from the Aggies. They held a contest and the winner was the Staters. Sports editor of the Lansing State Journal, George Alderton, vowed to find a better name. Alderton found another entry with the name the Spartans and decided that that was the better choice. The paper began using the nickname in headlines, and after no complaints, and after the student publication began using it, it caught on. The Sparty mascot first appeared in 1955 as a papier-mâché head made by Theta Xi fraternity members. The papier-mâché head was replaced by a fiberglass version a year later, and in 1989, based on a drawing made by Dave Gordon in 1985, the modern Sparty costume debuted and became a hit, and a symbol of the university. The Michigan State Spartans would go on to win 26 NCAA team national championships in women's cross country and men's wrestling, soccer, ice hockey, gymnastics, cross country, boxing, football, and basketball. Next up is Minnesota. Established in 1851 with its campus in Minneapolis, Minnesota, they adopted the name of the Golden Gophers. The name is another one inspired by the state's nickname. Minnesota became the Gopher State in 1857 when R.O. Sweeney published a political cartoon depicting state legislators as gophers dragging the state in the wrong direction. The nickname was attached to the university as early as 1888 when the yearbook was titled the Gopher, and in 1926, football coach Clarence Spears officially named the team the Gophers. In 1934, coach Bernie Bierman, wanting to gain a competitive advantage, changed the team jerseys to gold, and after radio announcer Halsey Hall started calling them the Golden Gophers, the name stuck. In 1952, the Goldie Gopher that was named a decade later came to life when a band member climbed into a fuzzy wool gopher suit bought by the assistant bandmaster Jerome Glass. The Goldie Gopher became a mainstay with the band and became a fixture at games, even getting a statue in 2013. The Minnesota Golden Gophers would go on to win 26 NCAA team championships in women's ice hockey and men's outdoor track, wrestling, ice hockey, golf, baseball, and football. Next up is another recent addition to the Big Ten, and that's Nebraska. Established in 1869 with its campus located in Lincoln, Nebraska, they adopted the name of the Cornhuskers. Nebraska went by different names before the Cornhuskers. This includes the Old Gold Knights, Scarlet and Cream, and the Bug Eaters. A headline in 1893 in the school newspaper read, "We have met the Cornhuskers and they are ours." This was in reference to Iowa, who at that time were known as the Cornhuskers. Charles Sherman from the Nebraska State Journal started referring to the team as the Cornhuskers in 1889, and by the start of the 20th century, the name stuck. And in 1945, Nebraska became the Cornhusker State. Nebraska had a few mascots before Herbie Husker and Little Red. The first was Corn Cob Man, who had an ear of corn for a head. The next was Husky the Husker, who was a 10-foot tall farmer. Then it was Mr. Big Red, who was also 10 feet tall, but he wore a blazer. This gave way to Herbie Husker in 1974, who was based on designs by Dirk West. The Nebraska Cornhuskers would go on to win 29 NCAA team national championships in women's volleyball and indoor track, along with men's gymnastics, bowling, and football. Next up is Northwestern. Established in 1851 with its campus in Evanston, Illinois, they adopted the nickname of the Wildcats. Northwestern was originally known as the Purple and unofficially known as the Fighting Methodist, but in 1924, Wallace Abbey, a writer for the Chicago Daily Tribune, wrote, "Football players had not come down from Evanston. Wildcats would be a better name suited to Glenn Thistlewaite's boys." The name became very popular and became official just months later. In 1923, the team had their first mascot, who was actually a live cage bear cub from the Lincoln Park Zoo named Furpaw. But after a losing season, they felt Furpaw brought them bad luck, and in 1933, Willie the Wildcat debuted, initially as a logo, but later came to life when members of the Alpha Delta fraternity dressed as him. The Northwestern Wildcats would go on to win 10 NCAA team championships in women's lacrosse, men's fencing, and field hockey. Next up is Ohio State. Established in 1870 with its campus in Columbus, Ohio, they adopted the nickname of the Buckeyes. The name comes from the official state tree of Ohio, which is the Buckeye tree. According to folklore, the Buckeye resembles the eye of a deer and brings good luck. Ohio State officially adopted the nickname in 1950, though the Buckeye term had been used to describe people from Ohio for over a century. The first recorded use of the term came in 1788 when Colonel Ebenezer Sproat led the local delegation at the first court session of the Northwest Territory in Marietta. Indians in attendance shouted "Hetkuk," the Indian word for Buckeye, and the nickname stuck with him ever since. The first appearance of Brutus the Buckeye occurred in 1965 when a papier-mâché nut constructed by students was worn on the head with legs sticking out. This would later be replaced by a fiberglass shell, and Brutus received the name in a contest won by Kerry Reed. The Ohio State Buckeyes have won 39 NCAA team national championships in women's rowing and ice hockey, along with men's volleyball, wrestling, swimming, outdoor track and field, gymnastics, golf, fencing, basketball, baseball, and football. Next up is Penn State. Established in 1855 and becoming Penn State in 1929, with its campus located in University Park, Pennsylvania, they adopted the nickname of the Nittany Lions. The nickname originated in 1904 when student Joe Mason was at the Princeton vs. Penn State baseball game and was embarrassed that Penn State didn't have a mascot after being shown a statue of Princeton's Bengal tiger. Mason came up with the Nittany Lion mascot on the spot, saying that it was the fiercest bear of them all and could defeat a tiger. Penn State won that day, and the nickname became so popular that there was never a vote for its adoption. The Nittany Lion refers to the eastern mountain lions that roamed on the nearby Mount Nittany until the 1880s. The Nittany Lion would also be the name for the mascot that seemed to appear starting in 1921. The Penn State Nittany Lions will go on to win 55 NCAA team championships in women's fencing, lacrosse, soccer, and volleyball, along with men's wrestling, volleyball, fencing, gymnastics, football, cross country, and boxing. Next up is Purdue. Established in 1869 with its campus located in West Lafayette, Indiana, they adopted the nickname of the Boilermakers. The nickname came in the late 1880s after defeating Wabash College in football. Citizens of Crawfordsville, where Wabash College is, called them blacksmiths and a great big burly gang of cornhuskers. This was mainly in reference to the hands-on experience of students at Purdue that included the maintenance of a fully operational steam locomotive. In 1891, after Purdue beat Wabash 44-0, a headline in the Crawfordsville paper read, "Slaughter of Innocents. Wabash snowed completely under by the burly Boilermakers from Purdue." They adopted the Boilermakers nickname the next year. The official mascot of Purdue is the Boilermaker Special, which is a Victorian-era railroad locomotive built on a truck chassis. The mascot is an ode to their engineering and railroad heritage, first thought up by Israel Selkowitz in 1939. Though the Boilermaker Special is the official mascot, the one seen at games is Purdue Pete. He was designed by the University Bookstore in 1940 and made his live debut in 1956 at a pep rally. The Purdue Boilermakers will go on to win 5 NCAA team national championships in women's basketball and golf, along with men's golf, basketball, and football. Next is another recent addition to the Big Ten, and that's Rutgers. Established in 1766 and becoming Rutgers College in 1825, with its campus located in New Brunswick and Piscataway, New Jersey, they adopted the nickname of the Scarlet Knights. In the early days of their athletics, they were known as the Scarlet, in reference to their school color. In 1925, the mascot was changed to the Chanticleer, which was a fighting rooster from the fable Reynard the Fox. The student humor magazine at Rutgers was called the Chanticleer, and one of its art editors was Ozzie Nelson, the quarterback for Rutgers. However, over the years, the name was ridiculed for being associated with being chicken, and in 1955, a campus-wide election for a new name took place, and the winner was the Scarlet Knight. The football coach Harvey Harmon, who was a big opponent of the Chanticleer name, is said to have bought the first Scarlet Knight costume. The Rutgers Scarlet Knights have won just one NCAA team national championship in fencing. Our final school in the Big Ten is Wisconsin. Established in 1848 with its campus located in Madison, Wisconsin, they adopted the nickname of the Badgers. Like other schools, the name was inspired by the history of the state. Wisconsin was called the Badger State because of lead miners who first settled in the state in the 1820s and 30s. With no shelter in the winter, they had to live like badgers in tunnels burrowed into hillsides. The Badger nickname was adopted by the school in 1889. The Bucky Badger was created in 1940 by Art Evans. And that year an actual badger was used at the first few football games, but was too hard to control, so instead a live raccoon was used. In 1948, an art student, Caroline Conrad, created a papier-mâché Bucky Badger head, and Bill Sagal wore the outfit at the homecoming game. A contest was undertaken for a name, and the winner was Buckingham U. Badger, later shortened to Bucky. The Wisconsin Badgers will go on to win 32 NCAA team national championships in women's cross country, ice hockey, and volleyball, along with men's soccer, indoor track and field, ice hockey, cross country, boxing, and basketball. Now let's move to the Big 12. We start with Baylor. Established in 1845 with its campus located in Waco, Texas, they adopted the nickname of the Bears. Though they began playing sports in the 1890s, they didn't have a nickname until 1914. President Samuel Palmer Brooks held a vote to choose a mascot with options that included the buffalo, a ferret, and a bookworm. The student body decided to go with the American black bear as their new mascot, and with black bears roaming through much of Texas during the founding of Baylor, the name fit perfectly. The mascot of Baylor is a live black bear named Judge Lady. The first live bear made its debut in 1917 at the Baylor vs. Texas A&M football game. The bear was named Ted and was donated by the troops of the 107th Engineers. The costume bear mascot that would become Bruiser first appeared in 1981 at basketball games, and in 2017, Bruiser's partner Marigold was introduced. The Baylor Bears would go on to win 5 NCAA Team National Championships in women's basketball and men's tennis and basketball. Next up is a school joining the Big 12 this year, and that's BYU. Established in 1875 and becoming Brigham Young University in 1903, with its campus located in Provo, Utah, they adopted the nickname of the Cougars. The Cougar became the mascot in 1923 when coach Eugene L. Roberts suggested the Cougar name because of its nativity to Utah, and it exemplified the traits he wanted to see in his athletes, such as strength, grace, quickness, and beauty. Just like many schools at the time, they had live mascots with 2 cougar kittens named Cleo and Tarbo. However, in 1930, Tarbo passed away and Cleo was sent to the Hoggle Zoo. It wasn't until 1953 when they decided that a costume mascot was better than a live one, and they brought in Cosmo the Cougar, who was created by Dwayne Stevenson and made his debut on October 15, 1953. The BYU Cougars would go on to win 12 NCAA Team National Championships in women's cross country and men's golf, volleyball, outdoor track and field, cross country, and football. Next up is another school joining the Big 12 this year, and that's Cincinnati. Established in 1819 with its campus located in Cincinnati, Ohio, they adopted the nickname of the Bearcats. The birth of the nickname happened on October 31, 1914, during a football game between Cincinnati and the Kentucky Wildcats. One of Cincinnati's star players was Leonard Bear. A cheerleader named Norman Lyon came up with the chant that said, "They may be Wildcats, but we have a Bearcat on our side." The crowd chanted, "Come on, Bearcats," and Cincinnati went on to win 14-7. A cartoon showing a Cincinnati Bearcat chasing a Kentucky Wildcat was shown in the university newspaper that week, and though not immediate, the Bearcat nickname would grow and officially became the name in 1919 when the Cincinnati Enquirer referred to them as such. In the 1950s, students began dressing as a friendly Bearcat, and through the years, the mascot would evolve to the one seen today. In 2008, a live Bearcat named Lucy became a prominent figure at home games, but retired in 2019 after caretakers began to notice her lack of enthusiasm. The Cincinnati Bearcats would win 2 NCAA Team National Championships with their back-to-back titles in men's basketball in 1961 and 62. Next up is Houston. Established in 1927 and becoming the University of Houston in 1934, with their campus located in Houston, Texas, they, like BYU, adopted the nickname of the Cougars. The name was given by physical education instructor John Bender. Bender was a football, basketball, and baseball coach at a number of schools before becoming an instructor at Houston in 1927. At Houston, he was also a volunteer football coach for a team of students at the school. With one of his former schools, Washington State, adopting the Cougars nickname, he suggested they be named after them. The college newspaper would become the Cougar, and the sports teams would go by the same name when they started in 1946. A live cougar named Shasta was used from 1947 to 1989, and from 1989 to the present, a costume Shasta began appearing at games. However, a live cougar would be reintroduced starting in 2012. The Houston Cougars would go on to win 17 NCAA Team National Championships, with 16 of those coming in men's golf, and the other one coming in men's cross country. Next is Iowa State. Established in 1858 with its campus located in Ames, Iowa, they adopted the nickname of the Cyclones. The name dates back to 1895 when Iowa suffered an unusually high number of damaging cyclones, which today are called tornadoes. In September of that year, the football team for the then named Iowa Agricultural College defeated Northwestern 45-0. The next day, the Chicago Tribune printed a headline, "Struck by a Cyclone. It comes from Iowa and devastates Evanstontown." The article began as, "Northwestern might as well have tried to play football with an Iowa Cyclone as with the Iowa team it met yesterday." The nickname stuck ever since. With the Cyclone obviously being difficult to depict in a costume, a cardinal was selected to represent the school as it matched the school's color of cardinal red and gold. A contest was undertaken in 1954, and the name Cy was the winner and remains to this day. The Iowa State Cyclones would go on to win 13 NCAA Team National Championships in women's gymnastics and men's cross country and wrestling. Next up is Kansas. Established in 1864 with its campus located in Lawrence, Kansas, they adopted the nickname of the Jayhawks. The term dates as far back to the Revolutionary War era and one of the country's founding fathers, John Jay, who was a strict Orthodox Christian and believed in the abolition of slavery. Over the next century, those aligning with Christian and militia groups with the same beliefs were labeled as Jayhawkers. Many Federalist settlers from the east moved to the Kansas Territory in the mid-century, and the area became a battleground for those wanting Kansas to have legal slavery and those wanting a free state. The Jayhawker term was originally given to both sides, but the name stuck to those wanting a free state. Over time, the Jayhawker term would become a source of pride for people in Kansas, becoming synonymous with the state, and in the 1890s, the Kansas sports teams began being called the Jayhawkers, that would later be shortened to the Jayhawks, which according to the school is a combination of both a blue jay and the sparrowhawk. On the 150th anniversary of the sacking of Osceola in 2011, the town of Osceola, Missouri asked Kansas to remove the Jayhawk as their mascot, but they refused. Big J would become the costume mascot for Kansas. The first mascot to appear was made by cartoonist and student Henry Malloy in 1912, and answered what the mythical Jayhawk may look like, and the mascot was given shoes to kick opponents. The Centennial Jay would be reintroduced on its 100th anniversary in 2012. The Kansas Jayhawks would go on to win 12 NCAA team championships in women's outdoor track and field, and men's cross country, indoor and outdoor track and field, and basketball. We remain in Kansas for the next one for Kansas State. Established in 1863 with its campus in Manhattan, Kansas, they adopted the nickname of the Wildcats. Through the first 19 seasons of Kansas State athletics, the team went by the Aggies. Then in 1915, Coach John Bender, who also named Houston's team, began calling his team the Wildcats. That name in Bender would only last one season, and in 1917, under Coach Z.G. Clevenger, the team became the Farmers. But in 1920, Coach Charles Bachman took over the program and renamed the team the Wildcats. And this time, it stuck. A real Bobcat represented the team starting in 1922. The Bobcat was named Touchdown, with multiple predecessors. Touchdown never attended a football game, but could be seen at the Sunset Zoo until the 1980s. The first costume mascot that would be named Willie the Wildcat appeared in 1947, and would go through many changes throughout, including a Mickey Mouse look and the Power Cat costume seen today. Though the Kansas State Wildcats have won individual NCAA national championships, the school has never won a team national championship. Up next is Oklahoma. Established in 1890 and becoming the University of Oklahoma in 1907, with its campus in Norman, Oklahoma, they adopted the nickname of the Sooners. The nickname comes from settlers who entered the unassigned lands that became part of present-day Oklahoma before the land rush of 1889. The unassigned lands were Indian Territory, and after a lobbying campaign, were to be opened to American settlement. April 22, 1889 at noon was the official open time, and the Sooner Clause stated anyone who entered an occupied land before that time was denied the right to claim the land. The Sooner term initially had negative connotation, but eventually the term became an affectionate term for people in Oklahoma, and the Oklahoma football team adopted the nickname in 1908, and the state of Oklahoma has been known as the Sooner State since the 1920s. The mascot of Oklahoma is the Sooner Schooner. In reference to the original Sooners, it is a replica of the Studebaker-Conestoga wagon used by settlers in the territory at the time. The wagon is pulled by two white ponies named Boomer and Sooner, and runs onto the field after Oklahoma scores during home games. The Sooner Schooner made its debut in 1964 and officially became the mascot in 1980. The Oklahoma Sooners would go on to win 43 NCAA team championships in women's gymnastics and softball, along with men's gymnastics, wrestling, golf, football, and baseball. We remain in Oklahoma for Oklahoma State. Established in 1890 with its campus located in Stillwater, Oklahoma, they adopted the nickname of the Cowboys. Like other A&M schools, the athletic teams were originally referred to as the Aggies and later the Farmers, and later the Tigers. The Tigers' name proved to be unpopular, and the school began searching for a new nickname. In 1923, at the Stillwater Armistice Day Parade, Frank Eden was approached to see if he was interested in being the model for the new mascot. He agreed and a likeness was drawn, and the character would serve as a symbol for the university and teams. And eventually, over 3 decades after the original inspiration, Pistol Pete became the school's mascot, and Cowboys became the sole nickname of the school. The Oklahoma State Cowboys will go on to win 53 NCAA team national championships in men's cross country, golf, baseball, basketball, football, and their 34 wrestling national titles is the most of one single sport in the entire country. Next up is TCU. Established in 1873 and becoming Texas Christian University in 1902, with their campus located in Fort Worth, Texas, they adopted the nickname of the Horned Frogs. The unique nickname goes back to 1886, when the yearbook was titled The Horned Frog. Allegedly, the football field was full of horned lizards during their early years, and whether this is true or not, the Horned Frog's nickname stuck from the very beginning. The Horned Frog would become a symbol for the school, appearing in the school's first seal in 1915. And appearing on class rings, drums, and starting in the post-World War II years, appearing in costumes at sporting events. In 1979, the mascot would be renamed from Addie the All-American Frog to Super Frog, leading to the one seen today. The TCU Horned Frogs would go on to win 6 NCAA Team National Championships in women's golf and rifle and football. We remain in Texas for Texas. Established in 1881 with its campus located in Austin, Texas, they adopted the nickname of the Longhorns. The Longhorn name comes from the longhorn cattle that were a big part in the development of Texas, and are the official large animal of the state. Texas athletes were known as Longhorns before their mascot was introduced in 1916. That mascot was a maverick longhorn steer brought to campus on a train from South Texas and introduced at halftime by cheering Texas fans. The name of the mascot became Bevo, after the editor of the alumni magazine combined the plural form of beef, beeve, and added an O at the end, as was common practice in this time. There is a common belief that Bevo's name came from altering a 13-0 branding a group of Aggies gave the steer. However, if this was true, it would have to have happened months after Bevo received the name by the editor. The Texas Longhorns would go on to win 60 NCAA Team National Championships in women's volleyball, tennis, swimming, rowing, outdoor and indoor track and field, cross country, and basketball, along with men's golf, indoor track and field, swimming, tennis, baseball, and football. We still remain in Texas for Texas Tech. Established in 1923 with its campus located in Lubbock, Texas, they adopted the nickname of the Red Raiders. Originally, the school had the nickname of the Matadors, given in 1925 by the wife of the first football coach, who suggested the name to reflect the influence of the Spanish Renaissance architecture on campus. The nickname was approved by students, and they won their first football game with the name. There are 2 stories on how the Red Raiders name came to be. One is that Coach Pete Cawthon ordered scarlet uniforms to help the team's identity, and with the new uniforms, they defeated favored Loyola in October of 1934. An LA sports writer called Texas Tech a Red Redding team, and the term caught on with other writers. The other story is that in 1932, sports writer Collier Paris wrote on a Texas Tech game, "The Red Raiders from Texas Tech, terror of the Southwest this year, swooped into the New Mexico University camp today." The name became popular afterwards, and in 1936, officially became the name. And in the same year, the Masked Rider appeared for the first time. The Masked Rider officially became the mascot in 1954 after a performance at the Gator Bowl, and has led the team out at every game since. Texas Tech has another mascot named Raider Red, who was introduced in 1971 when the Southwest Conference created a rule forbidding live animal mascots brought to away games, which meant the Masked Rider couldn't bring his horse. The Texas Tech Raiders have won 2 national championships in men's outdoor track and field and women's basketball. Up next is another school joining the Big 12 this year, and that's UCF. Established in 1963 and becoming the University of Central Florida in 1978, with its campus located in Orlando, Florida, they adopted the nickname of the Knights. The first mascot of the university was the Citronaut, designed by Norman Van Meter and appeared on the cover of the 1969 Student Handbook. The sports teams that began competition were known as the Knights of the Pegasus. 2 decades later, after Shocker, the Knights of the Pegasus didn't create great merchandise sales, the name was switched to the Golden Knights. In that same year, the mascot developed by a committee and named Nitro from a winning submission made by Robert Morris made its debut. Costume World created the first costume with other companies like Wizard Productions, and Disney made future costumes. In 2007, UCF dropped the Golden from the name and became just the Knights. The UCF Knights have won 1 individual NCAA championship, and in 2017 they claimed a national championship in football after going undefeated. The last school in the Big 12 is West Virginia. Established in 1867 with its campus located in Morgantown, West Virginia, they adopted the nickname of the Mountaineers. The nickname was adopted in 1905 after coining the West Virginia state motto, "Mountaineers are always free." Prior to this, members of the football team were known as the Snakes. A big tradition for West Virginia is the Mountaineer mascot that dons a coonskin cap, buckskins, and carries a rifle. The Mountaineer is a designated member of the student body, with Clay Krause being the first unofficial Mountaineer mascot in 1927. And in 1934, Lawson Hill became the first official Mountaineer mascot. The mascot is still a huge fixture of West Virginia athletics, and a Mountaineer statue was revealed in 1971. West Virginia has won 20 NCAA team championships, with 1 in boxing and 19 in rifle. Now we move to the Pac-12. The first school is Arizona. Established in 1885 with its campus located in Tucson, Arizona, they, like many other schools, adopted the nickname of the Wildcats. The name derived from a 1914 football game against Occidental College, who were the champions of California at the time. The Los Angeles Times wrote that Arizona showed the fight of Wildcats. The name caught on from there. 1 year later, a live desert bobcat was brought to campus and was named Rufus, Arizona, after then President Rufus von Kleinsmith. Rufus and his successors would appear until the 1960s. 1959 was the first year of the costume wildcat named Wilbur, created by Richard Heller and John Paquette, who were inspired by the Oski mascot at Cal. He proved to be very popular and has been a mainstay ever since. The Arizona Wildcats would go on to win 19 NCAA team national championships in women's golf, swimming, and softball, along with men's swimming, golf, basketball, and baseball. We remain in Arizona for Arizona State. Established in 1885 and becoming Arizona State University in 1958, with their campus in Tempe, Arizona, they adopted the nickname of the Sun Devils. Before becoming the Sun Devils, they had names such as the Normals, Owls, and Bulldogs in the late 1800s and early 1900s. In 1946, the student newspaper, the State Press, urged the school's nickname to be changed from the Bulldogs to the Sun Devils. On November 8th, the student body voted 819 to 196 to change the name. 2 weeks later, the Arizona football team played for the first time as the Sun Devils. 2 years later, Burke Anthony designed Sparky, a devil holding a trident. It is rumored that he based Sparky's facial features on his former boss, Walt Disney. Sparky was redesigned by members of the ASU community in 2013, after original designs to work with Disney on a new design were scrapped after controversy. The Arizona State Sun Devils have won 24 NCAA team national championships in women's golf, softball, indoor and outdoor track and field, along with men's golf, gymnastics, wrestling, indoor and outdoor track and field, and baseball. Next is California. Established in 1868 with its campus located in Berkeley, California, they adopted the nickname of the Golden Bears. The nickname originated in 1895 during Cal's track and field team that went on a dominant tour of Midwest and Eastern universities. A blue silk banner with the golden grizzly bear, which is the state symbol of California, was displayed by the team during the tour. Ever since, sports teams were known as the Golden Bears. After initially having live bears as their mascot, Oski the Bear made his debut at a freshman rally in September of 1941. The character was named and designed by William Rockwell and satirist Warrington Cole Scott. William Rockwell would be the first student to play the role. Oski's name is based on the school's spirit yell named the Oski Yell that developed around the turn of the century. The California Golden Bears have won 47 NCAA team national championships in women's rowing, softball, and swimming, along with men's water polo, swimming and diving, outdoor track and field, gymnastics, golf, basketball, baseball, and football. We remain in California for the University of California, Los Angeles, also known as UCLA. Established in 1881 and becoming UCLA in 1927, with their campus in Los Angeles, California, they adopted the nickname of the Bruins. In 1919, UCLA was known as the southern branch of the University of California, and with them being known as the Bears, UCLA became the Cubs as an ode to them being the younger team. The Cubs would last until 1923, when coach Jimmy Klein gave them the nickname the Grizzlies. However, in 1928, as the Grizzlies joined the Pacific Coast Conference, there was a problem, as the University of Montana, already in the conference, was called the Grizzlies. With Montana having prior rights and the school becoming UCLA a year prior, they changed their names to the Bruins, and it's stuck ever since. Just like many schools in this time, their first mascots were live animals. Starting in the 1930s, they began renting live bears for their mascot at home games. A Himalayan bear cub was purchased in the 50s and was named Little Joe Bruin, which would become the name of the costume mascot introduced in 1963, with changing designs over the years. The UCLA Bruins would go on to win 121 NCAA team championships in women's golf, beach volleyball, gymnastics, indoor and outdoor track and field, soccer, softball, tennis, volleyball, and water polo, along with men's golf, gymnastics, outdoor track and field, soccer, swimming, tennis, volleyball, water polo, baseball, and basketball. Next is Colorado. Established in 1876 with its campus in Boulder, Colorado, they adopted the nickname of the Buffaloes. Prior to 1934, the Colorado football team was known as the Silver Helmets and the Frontiersmen. The student newspaper decided to sponsor a national contest for a new nickname, and the winner ended up being the Buffaloes, first submitted by Andrew Dixon. And in that same year, in their final game against Denver, this would mark the inaugural running of a bison at the game. It took 4 students and the cowboy to keep the calf under control, and in 1967, the first time a live bison, who would be named Ralphie, led the team out on the field. Ralphie still appears at games, being a main fixture for the program. A team cares for her and only runs on the field if it is deemed in her best interest. In addition to the live buffalo, Chip is the costume mascot who has appeared at games since the 1980s. The Colorado Buffaloes will go on to win 28 NCAA team championships in women's cross country and men's skiing, cross country, and football. Next is Oregon. Established in 1876 with its campus in Eugene, Oregon, they adopted the nickname of the Ducks. As early as the 1890s, Oregon teams were known as Webfoots. This name was originally given to a heroic group of fishermen from Massachusetts during the American Revolutionary War, and after their descendants moved to Oregon, the name stuck with them. After L.H. Gregory won a naming contest in 1926 to make the team name the Webfoots, and a student vote in 1932 affirmed the choice, Oregon officially had their name. With the web feet that ducks have, many headlines and journalists referred to them as the Ducks. And live ducks began showing up at games, with the original duck being named Puddles. However, after complaints from the Humane Society, Puddles stopped showing up to games in the early 40s. Cartoon drawings of Puddles began appearing in student publications, and they resembled Donald Duck. Disney was aware of the issue, and Oregon Athletic Director Leo Harris met with Walt Disney, and an informal handshake deal led to the university gaining permission to use Donald as their mascot. And after an alternative version of the duck's likeness appeared in 1978, students struck the decision down heavily to keep the Donald Duck look the Oregon Duck is based on. And though Oregon was called both the Webfoots and the Ducks at this time, this marked the time that the Ducks became official. The Oregon Ducks would go on to win 34 NCAA team championships in women's cross country and indoor and outdoor track and field, along with men's golf, cross country, indoor and outdoor track and field, and basketball. We remain in Oregon for Oregon State. Established in 1868 with its campus located in Corvallis, Oregon, they adopted the nickname of the Beavers. The university's newspaper was the known organization to adopt the Beaver nickname, doing so as early as 1908. The school yearbook also started using the Beaver title, and with little criticism from students, the name stuck. Oregon State had a few mascots before Benny Beaver became the first official one. One of those was John Richard Newton Bell, who would march the Marsh River and toss his top hat into the water as celebration after victories over Oregon. The school also had Jimmy Coyote and Bulldog as unofficial mascots for specific teams, and even had a failed attempt at using a live beaver mascot in the 20s. Benny Beaver made his first live appearance in September of 1952, and was named after a beaver statue that was carted around during parades and during Oregon State games. The Oregon State Beavers would go on to win 4 NCAA team national championships in men's cross country and baseball. Next is the University of Southern California, also known as USC. Established in 1880 with its campus in Los Angeles, California, they adopted the nickname of the Trojans. Prior to 1912, they were known as the Fighting Methodist, as well as the Wesleyans. In 1912, when USC was playing rugby instead of football, athletic director Warren Boulevard asked sports editor Owen Bird to help USC find a new nickname. Owen Bird said he was struck by the fighting spirit of many USC athletes despite often being overmatched, and because of this, he started calling them the Trojans, a name that stuck. USC's popular and first unofficial mascot was the Tommy Trojan, a bronze statue featuring a life-size Trojan warrior standing in the middle of campus that was unveiled in 1930. The first mascot of USC would appear in 1940. It was a shaggy dog who loved to chase down cars and nibble their tires, and was later named George Tirebiter. He officially became the mascot in 1947 and currently has a statue on the campus that was introduced in 2006. The current official mascot that debuted in 1961 is Traveler. Traveler is the horse that is rode on by an unnamed Trojan warrior who appears at home games and has dressed in the same outfit since 1962. A costume version of Tommy Trojan and Traveler began appearing in 2013. The USC Trojans would go on to win 123 NCAA team championships in women's basketball, golf, outdoor track and field, soccer, beach volleyball, water polo, swimming, and tennis, along with men's water polo, volleyball, tennis, swimming, outdoor and indoor track and field, gymnastics, baseball, and football. We remain in California for Stanford. Established in 1891 with its campus in Stanford, California, they adopted the nickname of the Cardinal. The nickname first appeared in 1892 when writers in the San Francisco Chronicle referred to the team as the Cardinal due to their team colors. They would continue to be referred to as the Cardinal by sports writers even when they changed their mascot to the Indians starting in 1930. The Indian name and symbol would be dropped in 1972 after objections from Native American students. For the next decade, they were referred to as the Cardinals, and despite other suggestions like robber barons and the trees, President Donald Kennedy declared the team to be called the Cardinal again. During the time the team was called the Indians, they had Prince Lightfoot as the official mascot. However, the mascot left with the team name in 1972. 3 years later, the unofficial mascot that is seen today debuted. The first appearance of the Stanford Tree was in 1975 with the marching band, as the Trees was one of the possible new nicknames. The tree was popular and remained ever since, with new versions of the tree designed each year. The Stanford Cardinal currently have the most NCAA team titles with 136. These are in women's water polo, volleyball, tennis, swimming, soccer, rowing, golf, cross country, and basketball, along with men's water polo, volleyball, tennis, swimming, soccer, outdoor track and field, football, golf, cross country, basketball, and baseball. Next is Utah. Established in 1850 and becoming the University of Utah in 1892, with its campus located in Salt Lake City, Utah, they adopted the nickname of the Utes. Prior to 1972, Utah teams were known as the Redskins. However, they discontinued the name after feeling that the name could be offensive to Native Americans. Utah then changed their name to the Utes. The Utes are an American Indian tribe that inhabited the Utah area for over 1,000 years, and became the inspiration for the name of the state. The tribe gave the university permission to use the name, which allowed the school to keep it when the NCAA was pressuring schools to change their name. When the team was named the Redskins, they had an American Indian mascot, but this was later dropped. In the 1980s, the Crimson Warrior was introduced, who was a man dressed in a Native American costume that would ride onto the field on horseback and throw a lance around a bale of hay. This was seen as more of a symbol than a mascot. The current official mascot was introduced in 1996, and that's Swoop. Swoop is a red-tailed hawk and was approved by the Ute tribe before use. The Utah Utes would go on to win 25 NCAA team national championships in skiing, women's gymnastics, and men's skiing and basketball. Next is Washington. Established in 1861 with its campus located in Seattle, Washington, they adopted the nickname of the Huskies. Washington teams were unnamed before 1920 when the teams were named the Sun Dodgers. The name finished first in a list of names submitted to over 3,000 voters. The name was derived from the campus humor magazine that had the same name. Sun Dodger was a joke about how much it rains in Seattle. However, during Christmas of 1921, newspapers began calls to remove the Sun Dodger name as it lacked punch and is really an inside joke. Coach Enoch Bagshaw proposed the Vikings, and papers started using the name in headlines. Upon returning from break, students were shocked to hear about the change. A selection committee formed to replace the name officially, and the winner was Husky, chosen because of its short name, easy to draw, ferocity, and the Husky is seen as a representation of Seattle, which many view as the gateway to the Alaska frontier. Starting in 1922, the university had live sled dogs as live mascots. Until 1961, a non-hereditary line of Siberian Huskies were used, but starting in 1961, a hereditary line of Alaskan Malamutes was used, and in 1995, the first costume mascot was revealed, and after a contest, the name became Harry the Husky. The Washington Huskies will go on to win 11 NCAA team national championships in football and women's rowing, golf, volleyball, cross country, and softball. We remain in Washington for the final team in the Pac-12, and that's Washington State. Established in 1890 and becoming Washington State in 1905, with its campus in Pullman, Washington, they adopted the nickname of the Cougars. In 1919, after a game between Washington State and California, a cartoonist drew the Washington State team as fierce Northwest Cougars chasing the defeated Golden Bears. A few days later, students officially designated the Cougars as their mascot. During halftime of the 1927 homecoming game, Washington Governor Ronald Hartley presented a Cougar cub to the students. The students were going to name the Cougar after the governor, but he declined and requested they name it Butch after Washington State's quarterback, who was nicknamed Butch. The live Cougar tradition will continue until 1978, when President Glenn Terrell discontinued the tradition. Later, the costume Butch T. Cougar would be introduced and still makes appearances at events. The Washington State Cougars will go on to win 3 NCAA team national championships in men's boxing, indoor track and field, and football. We move to our final conference, which is the SEC. And we begin with Alabama. Established in 1820 with its campus in Tuscaloosa, Alabama, they adopted the nickname of the Crimson Tide. Prior to 1906, the team was listed as the varsity or the Crimson White after the school colors. The first real nickname that was used in headlines was a thin red line. However, that would change in 1907 when Alabama took on Auburn in Birmingham. The iron-rich soil turned into a sea of red mud, which stained Alabama's white jerseys. Alabama ended up tying the favored Auburn 6-6, and Hugh Roberts, sports editor of the Birmingham Age-Herald, wrote that Alabama played like a Crimson Tide, a common phrase in this time for life or blood. The name stuck ever since. As for the mascot, the origins date back to 1930. Everett Strupper wrote about the Ole Miss-Alabama football game in the Atlanta Journal and said, "At the end of the quarter, the earth started to tremble. There was a distant rumble that continued to grow. Some excited fan in the stands bellowed, 'Hold your horses, the elephants are coming,' and out stomped this Alabama varsity." Writers began referring to Alabama as the Red Elephants throughout that national championship season, and from then on. Despite this, it wouldn't be until 1980 when the school officially recognized the elephant as the official mascot. After using live elephants for decades, the mascot Big Al made its debut at the 1979 Sugar Bowl. The mascot was sought out by student Walt Tart and was designed and constructed by the Walt Disney Company. The name came by way of student vote and was inspired by a popular DJ on the campus named Al Brown. The Alabama Crimson Tide will go on to win 28 NCAA team championships, with 18 in football, along with men's golf and women's softball, golf, and gymnastics. Next is Arkansas. Established in 1871 and becoming the University of Arkansas in 1899, with its campus located in Fayetteville, Arkansas, they adopted the nickname of the Razorbacks. Originally, like Stanford, they were called the Cardinals because of their color. In the early 20th century, wild Razorback hogs were a very common sight in rural Arkansas, and in 1909, after defeating LSU for their 5th straight win, when they returned, Coach Hugo Bezdek told the fans that the team played like a wild band of Razorback hogs. The Razorbacks nickname stuck and replaced the Cardinal name. Arkansas began using live mascots in the 1960s, and their current live mascot, Tusk, a Russian boar that weighs 400 pounds, debuted in 1997. And the Tusk lineage still appears today. Arkansas's first costume mascot debuted in the early 70s and became known as Big Red. Well, Big Red is the main mascot. Along with Tusk, Arkansas also has Porkchop, Boss Hog, and Ribby to represent the school as mascots. The Arkansas Razorbacks will go on to win 51 NCAA team national championships in women's cross country and indoor and outdoor track and field, along with men's cross country, basketball, football, and indoor and outdoor track and field. Next is Auburn. Established in 1856 and becoming Auburn in 1960, with its campus located in Auburn, Alabama, they adopted the nickname of the Tigers. As soon as Auburn fielded their first football team in 1892, they were called the Tigers. The nickname comes from a line in Oliver Goldsmith's 1770 poem, The Deserted Village, that reads, "Where crouching tigers await their hapless prey." The poem's first line was also the inspiration for the university's newspaper, the Auburn Plainsman, which is also the name for Auburn students. Auburn's mascot, Obby the Tiger, debuted in 1959 as a cartoon character drawn by Phil Neal that appeared on the football program. The character will continue to appear on the program for the next 18 years, changing positions and clothes. The costume mascot would make its debut in 1979 at the SEC basketball tournament after being designed by a costume shop in New York. The Auburn Tigers will go on to win 16 NCAA team national championships in women's swimming and outdoor track and field, along with men's swimming and football. Next is Florida. Established in 1853 and becoming the University of Florida in 1909, with its campus located in Gainesville, Florida, they adopted the nickname of the Gators. When Florida debuted their first team in 1906, they were referred to as the Orange and Blue and Pee Wee's Boys, after the team's coach, Jack Pee Wee Forsyth. In 1908, Philip Miller and his son Austin began selling Florida pennants with an alligator emblem to represent them. With millions of alligators living in Florida, the gator became popular among students, and the football team began referring to themselves as the Gators in 1911. A live gator first appeared in 1957 and was named Albert. The live gator would be the school's mascot until 1970, when the costume mascot debuted. A female gator named Alberta would appear in 1984, and the two would appear as a couple and alone from then on. The Florida Gators will go on to win 47 NCAA team national championships in women's golf, gymnastics, soccer, swimming and diving, softball, tennis, and indoor and outdoor track and field, along with men's tennis, swimming and diving, golf, indoor and outdoor track and field, football, baseball, and basketball. Next is Georgia. Established in 1785 with its campus located in Athens, Georgia, they adopted the nickname of the Bulldogs. The first mention of Georgia with the Bulldogs name happened in 1901, when fans had a badge that read, "Eat 'em, Georgia," with a picture of a bulldog tearing a piece of cloth. However, it wasn't until 1920 when the Bulldog name was adopted. There is debate on where the name came from. Some say it came from the connection the school's first president had with Yale, who are also called the Bulldogs. Another is journalist Cliff Wheatley, who referred to the team as Bulldogs several times in an article. Either way, the name stuck from then on. The first Georgia Live Bulldog debuted in 1956 after Sonny Sailor was asked by Coach Wally Butts if they could use their Bulldog as a team mascot. Student Billy Young suggested the name UGA after the school's abbreviation, and UGA has appeared ever since. Georgia debuted Hairy Dog, Georgia's costume mascot, at the 1981 National Championship game. The mascot was created in response to the introduction of Florida's new mascot that was much more intimidating than the fluffy mascot Georgia was using at the time. The Georgia Bulldogs will go on to win 52 NCAA team national championships in women's indoor track and field, tennis, swimming, gymnastics, and golf, along with men's outdoor track and field, tennis, golf, football, and baseball. Up next is Kentucky. Established in 1865 and becoming the University of Kentucky in 1922, with its campus located in Lexington, Kentucky, they adopted the nickname of the Wildcats. They adopted the nickname Wildcats in 1909 after defeating Illinois in football 6-2. Commandant Philip Corbusier, who was the head of the military department at Old State University, told a group of students in a chapel service after the game that the team fought like Wildcats. The name became popular among students, and the name was officially adopted by the school. Kentucky's main mascot is the Wildcat, which is a costume mascot that made its debut in 1976. They later added Scratch, a child-friendly version of the Wildcat that wears his hat backwards. Kentucky also has a live mascot named Blue, who lives at the state-operated Salato Wildlife Education Center. He doesn't attend games due to the shy nature of bobcats that would not work well with large crowds. The Kentucky Wildcats will go on to win 15 NCAA team national championships in rifle, women's cross country, volleyball, and men's football and basketball. Up next is Louisiana State University, also known as LSU. Established in 1853 with its campus located in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, they adopted the nickname of the Tigers. The nickname was first adopted in 1896 in the football team's third season. The Tigers' nickname references Confederate-era military regiments. The Louisiana troops of Robert E. Lee's Army of Northern Virginia were known as the Tigers during the Civil War after two New Orleans brigades, the Tiger Rifles and Washington Artillery, whose logo featured a tiger's head. LSU's live mascot debuted in October of 1936. The Tiger was named Mike after Mike Chambers, who was the trainer most responsible for bringing him to the school. Mike would appear at games until 2016, when LSU decided to keep Mike in his habitat. LSU also has a costume mascot named Mike, who appears at many sporting events. The LSU Tigers will go on to win 49 NCAA Team National Championships, women's indoor and outdoor track and field and basketball, along with men's golf, boxing, indoor and outdoor track and field, baseball, and football. Next is the University of Mississippi, also known as Ole Miss. Established in 1844 with its campus located in University, Mississippi, they adopted the nickname of the Rebels. Prior to 1936, Ole Miss was known as the Flood. However, in that year they were looking for a new name, and the Mississippians sponsored a contest to find a new name. The Rebels name was submitted by Judge Ben Guider, and of the 21 newsmen who responded, 18 of them chose Rebels. The athletic committee made the name official with Judge William Hemingway saying, "If 18 sports writers wish to use Rebels, I shall not rebel. So let it go, Ole Miss Rebels." The first mascot of Ole Miss appeared in 1937 in the school yearbook designed by art editor Billy Hicks. The drawing was a cartoonish old colonel, with many suggesting James Blind Jim Ivey as possible inspiration for the character. The mascot will go from drawings to real life in 1979, when the first costume Colonel Red began appearing at games. However, in 2003, the mascot stopped appearing at games due to concerns that many may perceive the mascot as a representation of the Old South. And in 2010, the university changed the mascot to a black bear named Rebel. However, in 2018, the mascot would be changed once again, and this time it was to a land shark. The land shark symbol had become a part of Ole Miss sports starting in 2008. And after 81% of students supported the change, the land shark officially became the mascot. The Ole Miss Rebels will go on to win 5 NCAA Team National Championships in women's golf and men's baseball and football. We remain in Mississippi for Mississippi State. Established in 1878 and becoming Mississippi State University in 1961, with its campus located in Starkville, Mississippi, they adopted the nickname of the Bulldogs. They were originally referred to as the Aggies, as is the case with many agricultural-rooted schools. When the school became Mississippi State College in 1932, they adopted the nickname of the Maroons as a reference to their color. In 1961, when the school was granted university status, they changed their name to the Bulldogs, a nickname that had been used for decades at pep rallies and by journalists describing their Bulldog style of play. In 1935, head coach Ralph Sass acquired an English Bulldog to inspire the team, and after they beat Army in Alabama, fans agreed it was a good move to bring in a mascot full-time. Joe Rice Dockery would buy a Bulldog and named it Bully, and gave the dog to the school as a gift. And Bully has appeared on the sidelines ever since. Mississippi State also introduced a costume bully in 1964 and changed the look through the years. Mississippi State won their first and only team national championship when the baseball team won the College World Series in 2021. Next is Missouri. Established in 1839 with its campus located in Columbia, Missouri, they adopted the nickname of the Tigers. The name dates back to the Civil War period, and at the time, Confederate guerrilla bands raided small towns, and people in Columbia feared attacks, and organizations and companies band together to fight off any possible attacks. After chances of attacks diminished, the group disbanded in 1854. However, after a guerrilla band was rumored to attack, an armed guard of Columbia citizens quickly formed and became known as the Fighting Tigers of Columbia. Decades later, when Missouri fielded their first team, they adopted the Tigers' name after the defenders. Missouri had a mascot named the Tiger before 1986, but in that year, Truman the Tiger took over. The mascot was named after President Harry Truman, who was from Missouri. The Missouri Tigers would go on to win 2 NCAA Team National Championships in men's indoor track and field and baseball. Next is South Carolina. Established in 1801 and becoming the University of South Carolina in 1881, with its campus located in Columbia, South Carolina, they adopted the nickname of the Gamecocks. In the year 1900, the football team was referred to as the Gamecocks for the first time by the state newspaper. The nickname referenced the fighting tactics of Thomas Sumter, who was known as the Fighting Gamecock during the Revolutionary War, with garnet and black being the dominant colors on a gamecock, and already the school colors at the time. They officially adopted the nickname for all the teams. Though they had the nickname since the start of the 20th century, they didn't have a mascot until 1971. Before that, students and fans dressed up in costumes during games. In 1971, student John Nelson attended games in a Gamecock costume that was known as the Rooster. 9 years later, Cocky made his debut at the homecoming games. He was supposed to be the son of Big Spur, who was the mascot just before him. And Cocky was actually booed during his first appearance, but was later accepted and still shows up today. The South Carolina Gamecocks would go on to win 5 NCAA team national championships in women's outdoor track and field and basketball, along with baseball. Next is Tennessee. Established in 1794 and becoming the University of Tennessee in 1879, with its campus located in Knoxville, Tennessee, they adopted the nickname of the Volunteers. The nickname is another one that came from the state. Tennessee adopted the name of the Volunteer State during the War of 1812, when many people from the state volunteered to fight in the war. And the state backed the nickname up further when Governor Aaron Brown called for 2,800 men to fight in the Mexican-American War, and over 30,000 Tennessee volunteers responded. The football team was called the Volunteers for the first time in 1902, when the Atlanta Constitution reported on a game between Tennessee and Georgia Tech. By 1905, the Knoxville Journal began using the Volunteer nickname, and it stuck from then on. In 1953, the Pep Club held a contest to select a coonhound as the school's live mascot. Several dogs lined up on the old cheerleaders ramp during halftime against Mississippi State, and each dog had their name announced, and fans would cheer for their favorite. The last dog was named Blue Smokey, and when his name was announced, he barked. Students cheered, then he threw his head back and barked and howled again, sending the crowd into a frenzy. Blue Smokey then became the first mascot, and every new mascot has been named Smokey since, which includes the costume Smokey that made its debut in the 1980s. The Tennessee Volunteers will go on to win 23 NCAA team national championships in women's basketball and indoor and outdoor track and field, along with men's cross country, indoor and outdoor track and field, swimming and diving, and football. Next is Texas A&M. Established in 1871 and becoming Texas A&M in 1963, with its campus located in College Station, Texas, they adopted the nickname of the Aggies. Many agricultural schools had this nickname at one time, with Texas A&M being the only one here to currently use it. However, before they became the Aggies, they were known as the Farmers. They began referring to teams as the Aggies in the 20s, and the name stuck in 1949 when the yearbook changed from the Longhorn to Aggieland. The mascot of Texas A&M is a dog named Reveille. The first Reveille appeared in 1931 after members of the band accidentally hit a stray black and white dog and took the dog to their dorms for care, though dogs were not allowed. The secret was revealed when Reveille was blown and the dog started barking. Cadets allowed the dog to stay and named the dog Reveille, who began leading the football team out, becoming the mascot after, and remained to this day. The Texas A&M Aggies would go on to win 16 NCAA team national championships in women's basketball, outdoor track and field, and softball, along with men's golf, indoor and outdoor track and field, and football. The last school in the SEC and in this entire video is Vanderbilt. Established in 1873 and becoming Vanderbilt in 1877, with their campus located in Nashville, Tennessee, they adopted the nickname of the Commodores. The nickname comes from the same person who gave the school their namesake and original funding, Cornelius Vanderbilt, with Vanderbilt making his wealth in shipping, and the term Commodore being used by the Navy to refer to the commanding officer of a task force of ships. The name fit perfect. And the mascot named Mr. Commodore or Mr. C would go along with this, as since 1873, he would be portrayed as a naval officer from the 1880s with chops, a cutlass sword, and naval regalia. Vanderbilt also had a Basset Hound mascot named George, who in 1964 charged after Tennessee's horse during a game and became a hero to fans and students. The Vanderbilt Commodores would go on to win 6 NCAA team national championships in women's tennis and bowling, along with men's baseball. So after looking at the Power 5 conference schools totaling 69,
Nice.
we see many similar stories with journalists, students, and state history playing a big role in the nicknames of these schools. From live to costume mascots, it's always fun seeing grown adults dress up and bring great PR to their school.